I used to think a camera was a camera was a camera, so long as you weren't using your smartphone and you actually stepped up to a Sony or a Canon or a Nikon or any of those other ones, it's pretty much all going to be the same. Boy, was I wrong. So welcome back to the series that I'm now dubbing. I'm going to call this the Behind the Scenes series. So we've got a couple of different series now. We've got my normal ultra high-end audio videos that I do and reviews and things of that nature. I created my lounge series. My lounge series I did on the Tannoy video where it was a Sunday morning that I shot it. I had my fresh iced coffee and I was in my lounge pants. So we're dubbing that the lounge series. That's more of just an opinion piece and talking about the industry. And I've done a couple of videos already on this. The moving from a Sony FX3 cine camera to the Canon C70 and that journey. And I'm really passionate about the cine gear. So I want to continue the videos. I've got a list of videos I'm going to continue to do on that. And I was trying to find a way, how could I tie that into this channel? How could I tie it into the videos that I do on high-end audio? Because honestly, I don't get paid for these videos. I don't make any money on these videos. I don't make money on the channel. So for me to try and do a whole separate channel is just not realistic time-wise and effort-wise. So I'm going to call this the Behind the Scenes video series. So this is going to allow me to talk about things like cine gear or how I do the videos or how we shoot them, things of that nature, the gear I use, like the lights and the diffusers I have behind the camera right now, microphones, things of that nature. What microphones am I going to use going forward as I try and record, albeit it's not going to be great because you're going to be going through YouTube algorithms, and algorithms in terms of how the different gear sounds. So I'm going to be doing an ongoing series in regards to that. But let me get back to what today's is about, which is another one on the Canon and how I went from the FX3 to the C70 and my journey. Today I'm going to go over a couple of more features that I do like about this. I'll link below to the other 2 videos I've done, or 3 videos I've done. But, you know, I really realized something using this recently. For me, when I shoot my videos on the gear, and I'm looking over at the rack of gear that I have here right now, where this isn't a job for me, and I don't get paid for this, I speak from the heart. I speak from what's important to me, what I truly feel, what I like, and what I don't like. I don't have anybody to please with my videos except me, having fun doing it. So I don't have any agendas. What I've found recently as I do more videos, so where I was going with that is that if I'm not in the mood, if I'm not really feeling it, I can't shoot a video on the gear because it'll come across as just flat-footed and boring, and it'll seem like I'm just going through the paces. But one of the things I noticed the Canon over the FX3 is that it's made me want to get more creative. And I was really kind of astonished by that. It makes me, so let me take a step back. And you can tell I'm actually really kind of into today's video and this topic. I've been feeling, I did another video which this week, which I launched on the Antipodes audio streamer. And using this has made me realize this, that things such as, yes, obviously I wanted a Komodo. Who doesn't want one of those cameras? Komodo Red would have been amazing. It was just so much money. I can't afford that. I went with the FX3. I did a lot of online research. Turns out it was not the right camera for me. And I'm going high level because I've talked about this in the other videos. You can watch them for more of the backstory. Very quickly outgrew it. I didn't like the look that it was a very digital cell phone camera type look for me. It just looked almost like when you're on a TV, when you're watching TV and you've got their anti-motion blur and their all these different filters turned on to the max. It almost is like a soap opera effect. It just doesn't look real. That's what I felt like I was getting with the FX3. Certainly better than an iPhone, don't get me wrong, but I wasn't feeling it. It wasn't talking to me. Like with the music, you know, we talk about there's a digital sound and there's an analog sound. The digital is kind of cold and doesn't really speak to your emotion. I wanted video that spoke to my emotion. Am I submitting this for video awards? Is this going to be watched on a big screen? No, but I don't care. It's what I like and what's fun to me. So I reached out to several places, got really crappy service, virtually no help. And I reached out finally to Hot Rod Camera, and you'll see why I'm bringing this up again. And they were the only ones that took me seriously. Guys, I'm a small-time camera buyer. They treated me like I was a big-time buyer. They answered my questions. They helped me. They helped me realize the C70 was a better camera for me. And frankly, if I had gone to them first when I bought the FX3 rather than just buying the FX3 online, I'm sure they would have helped steer me in that right direction. But why am I bringing them up? Because I've realized in the last week in my journey that I think I've outgrown the Schneider 25mm. And I'll tell you why. First of all, I think I've outgrown it partly because, again, speaking back to this camera and it making me want to be more artistic and creative. The menu system in here is so much more advanced with color profiles and settings, so much more in-depth, so much more flexible than the Sony ever was, that it makes me want to try new things. It makes me want to step up my video game. It really makes me want to push that production level to the next step. But I have fun doing it. And that's an intangible that I can't explain why I have that on the Canon over the Sony. I think it's because the buttons are so easily laid out. They're more logical for me. Okay, it's all personal, guys. The menu system is so much more advanced. This has got such a much more beautiful picture. And I use the same lens. I used a Schneider 25mm on the Sony, so there's no variable in lens. I think that those are the intangibles that we talk about even in the high-end audio that draw you in, that really make it more enjoyable to use, that really make you connect with something like a car. I mean, you take two cars that are just as fast, that are equally as fast, you're going to gravitate towards one more than the other for reasons of intangibles. It feels better. It speaks to you more. So in the last week, going back to the lens, I said, okay, I had originally bought the 25mm because at the time I was doing a lot of videos from my studio. I needed that wide, real wide angle, and it worked as to where the camera was at. I also at the time had visioned, as I go to high-end audio shows, that I would be bringing the camera along and I needed that wide angle. As many of you know, I was incapacitated for about almost 4 or 5 months this year with a neck issue. That made me reassess and realize I'm realistically not going to be bringing this camera to the shows. For that, frankly, an iPhone will be absolutely fine. And that's what I'm going to do going forward. So that took off one reason why I needed a big 25. The other thing is I've moved my videos now to be more in front of the gear or talking here from the chair. It's more comfortable. I find it's less formal. I feel like I'm engaging you more than if I'm sitting in an actual studio setting. So again, I now don't need that 25 because the camera's not right up there. So when I sit in front of the gear, oftentimes, you know, we've got giant speakers over here. You can see the little bit of the distortion in the lens and how the 25, and they're a little bit crooked and things like that. In terms of how close the camera needs to be for me for close-up, things of that nature. So the 25 for me, I'm not sure is still where I need to be. I, like many of you, run into the problem of got to pay for this somehow. So I narrowed it down. I did all this research on lenses. I originally thought I was going to do, look, we all want Coke lenses. We all want, or Cook, or however you pronounce it. We all want those beautiful lenses. Guys, I'm not spending 10 or 15 grand on a lens. Would I love to? Sure. If I win the lottery, I'm buying it all. But that's not where I am price point, but I want to step up my game. So I watched a lot of different YouTube videos in terms of what look that I liked and I actually came back to the Canon lens. And there are a couple of Canon lenses that have caught my eye. And so because I had nice coffee this morning and my brain is everywhere and my hyperactivity is in overdrive, I had started to make the point earlier in regards to hot rod. Guys, for the heck of it, I sent out several emails this morning to different shops. And I asked them a similar question in regards to a 25 versus a 35 versus a 50. Guess who's the only one who responded? Guess who's the only one who went in detail to help me? Guess who's the only one saying, hey, here's an additional expert. Let's rope him in. We can help you get what you need. It's Hot Rod Camera. So in my last video that I did on the Antipodes Audio, it's a $9,000 streamer. I talked about the 3 pillars of what made me really be interested in that unit. And one of them was customer service, support from a company. So that carries over in everything that I do, whether it be audio gear or where I buy a car from or whatever it is. So for me, to have that resource with Hot Rod Camera and have them help steer me in that right direction really is important to me. And I tell you guys this because I don't want you to make the same mistake that I made in regards to, and guys, I don't care where you buy your stuff from. I don't care. My point is build a relationship. My point is have somebody that respects you. My point is have somebody that's going to help you find what's right for you rather than just trying to push stuff. And here's why. So like I reached out on the new CNR lens, and they told me, one of my questions was the 35 versus the 50. Here's what I'm trying to do. They didn't try and upsell me. They said, that's a great lens for what you're trying to do. We've used it. We like it. No upsell. They just answered my question, was helpful. So I think what I'm going to do is I am going to reach out to them. I am going to get on the phone with them. Going back to the point earlier about the money, I think I'm probably going to go with the 35 over a 50. I would love to have the 50 and the 25. I just don't, I can't have that kind of money tied up in camera lenses. That's a lot of money, especially if I'm not going to be using the 25 as much as I thought I would. I think the 35 will be a good midway point so that I can still do the wider angle stuff. In regards to the gear, it still allows me to do a close-up because I'm doing pretty good close-ups with the 25 on this. But it's still, I think that the 35 will pop me out a little bit more from the background than a 50. And I do like a little bit of that artistic creative look. So I may be going with that. Stay tuned. I'm going to be doing another video or two, probably several, on that lens journey and that lens purchasing decision and all that. But that's a really long-winded way of me saying that one of the intangibles I love about the C70 is that it makes me want to get creative. It makes me want to have fun with it and go down that route. And I never felt that way towards the Sony. Guys, I'm not knocking the Sony. Sony makes great cameras. They do right by a lot of people. This is merely a personal preference. But it kind of hit me this week when I said, you know, I need to do another video on this camera as to the intangibles and that wanting to be creative that I'm getting because of the Canon that I wasn't getting because of the Sony. So for me, the Sony was just a cold tool. The Canon is more of an artistic piece of what I'm trying to do. And it's funny, I laugh because I think I'm the least artistic person in the world. I'm the least creative person in the world. So for me to use myself in the same sentence as creative and artistic is, I'm laughing on the inside because that's not how I view myself. But it makes me want to have fun with it. And isn't that the point of the gear that we buy? To want to use it, to want to listen to the gear, to want to listen to music, to want to use the cameras, to want to have fun with it. Why spend the money if you're not going to really bond with it and use it? So that's kind of my pitch on the intangibles between the Sony and the Canon. A couple of other actual technical points. I'm going to look over here because I made a bunch of notes on that. Battery life is infinitely better on the Sony. And this is the smaller one. This is, I mean, on the Canon. This is the A30, not the A60. Definitely Definitely much better than the Sony was. The Sony was a joke of a battery life. I could literally just watch it as I made a video. So I like that. I like that this has got an external. I just press the button right there. It tells me how much battery life I have left. It's easy to get in and out of. There's no additional flip doors that you're always worried are going to break. So big thing on that. The preamp section on the Canon, when I start putting in my big dollar microphones to record the sound, there's a noticeable sound difference between the Sony and the Canon. The Canon is absolutely a step up in regards to the preamp section and how it's going to sound. There's also a difference in the sensor. Now the Canon was, and this made me a little nervous. The Sony rather was a full frame sensor. This is not, this is a Super 35. And this has got their DGO sensor. I believe that's dual gain, I think is what it stands for. Don't hold me to that. Guys, I'm not a camera salesman. I'm just here to talk to you about my journey. Big difference in terms of the shadow detail between the Canon and the Sony. The blacks and the shadow detail, difference of night and day. The Canon is so superior to that. I feel like the Sony's got more graduations and in terms of image and depth and shadings and things of that nature that the Sony never had. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but a lot of it does fall down to the sensor itself. And the other thing that's really cool is I actually have one of the hot rod camera adapters. I had tried different adapters from different brands to go from the camera body to a PL mount, and most of them were mediocre at best. They would either go loose, 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 tight, or one of them was actually so tight, and I had bought them from a major online place, was so tight when I tried to tighten the lens that when I put it on the Sony body, because I had tried these on the Sony at the time, that I was actually afraid it was going to pull the bayonet mounts on the Sony body out and loosen them so that when I put in a normal fitting lens, it wouldn't work. So I went with the hot rod camera lens. They make their own. I mean, it's phenomenal. It's so smooth. It's so perfect. But where I'm going with that is that on the Canon, I don't think you can see it, but it actually comes with a shoe here that screws into the body, and then it screws into the bottom of the adapter. So it's designed to hold bigger lenses, to support bigger lenses. The Sony didn't have that. And you know, I always worry about when you have this big giant 3-pound lens sitting on the end like this, over time, is it putting stress on the mounts or anything like that? But the Sony, the Canon rather alleviates that with this adapter and this it's not even an adapter, it's just more of a mount, I think is the better word for it. There's little things like that in my mind that Canon really went, not even the extra step, the extra 2 steps in terms of thinking of everything and making this a true cine camera. Now, I will tell you, the Sony allowed me to take photos much easier than the Canon does. I had to assign a button here for the Canon, and then I couldn't find a way, when I did take a picture, to actually see it on the display to see if I even captured what I was trying to get. So if you're looking to do pictures and video, you would probably need a different Canon, or the FX3 is better than that. I know some of the I don't want to say lower end, but not the C70s. I think it's the R5Cs or something like that are better at both. But in terms of pure cinematography, the C70 is my choice. So just know that from a photo point of view, it's not going to be an easy camera to just take lots of photos with. I don't really worry about that. The amount of photos I take with this are minuscule now that I've figured out how to do it. But you do that. You actually just map a button to it, a custom button, and it only records it on the B card. So know that you can't ever make it go onto the A card, which is fine. And then if I remember correctly, they said it actually takes it's actually a short video image that it kind of turns into a photograph. So you're not going to have all this massive amounts of flexibility with it. But again, it's not meant for a still photography camera. But that doesn't bother me in the least. Guys, I'm going to talk more about this in the next video, the next behind the scenes video. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the lens journey and what I decide to do. I'm going to talk more about the rollers and the diffusers that I have, the lights and lighting, and how I'm lighting up all the gear. Like, a lot of this gear is silver. How do I make it so it's not just a big, hard flashlight reflection? It's taken me a lot of videos to try and figure that out, and I continue to play with it and learn, and each video hopefully gets a little bit better. But it's fun. And I'm just sharing my passions with you guys. I hope you're liking it too. Guys, whatever you go for, gear-wise, camera-wise, just get what you like. Don't let anybody else on the forums or, God, the forums. I hate the forums, especially audio forums. Everybody's a know-it-all. Everybody's a keyboard commando. Just talk to some people who can help you. Find out whose opinion you respect, whether it be on gear or camera or whatever it is, and just get it and love it. If it works for you, then it was the best choice in the world. Don't be easily persuaded by other people. Don't let other people put you down on your choices. Guys, there are a million people that are going to look at this setup and say, oh, he's running a Schneider lens, or oh, he's going to do that Canon lens that's not $15,000, or okay, yeah. But you know what? I don't care. I love it. I'm having fun with it. And that's all that matters. So guys, be passionate about what you do. Have fun what you do. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one.